Hi, so in this video we're going to be talking all about pressure. Pressure is something that we all feel, and in my case it's something I put a lot of on myself. But where does this behavior come from? Well, this pressure has been internalized because we live in a society where we learn that in order to feel value, in order to feel worth, we need to be externally achieving things. It's not so much about cultivating an internal sense of happiness or anything like that. That's kind of really irrelevant. And obviously, a lot of cultures really struggle with this. For example, in Asia, in societies like South Korea and Japan, never been either. My brother lives in South Korea. I've heard a lot about Japan, so I'm not saying I'm an expert on it, but I think it's widely accepted that there's an insane amount of pressure on children to perform at school and to be achieving high grades, and in career places as well to be excelling all of the time. And obviously there's probably, well, no coincidence that there's a massively high suicide rate. Now, obviously, it's a real dichotomy because, even for me, I, on the one hand, really want to reject all of that stuff and just cultivate my own sense of happiness. But I also care about what other people think. I also care about social status. I also care about wanting to appear a certain way because I'm human, and, I think all of us do, most of us do anyway. And I think that it's a real dichotomy because, we're really torn between two things. For example, with like social media, it has so many good things to offer. You can build connections, you can share things, you can express yourself, all of that's great. So it's not like it's completely bad, but it's widely accepted there's a hell of a lot of negativity that comes with it. Increased depression, lower self-esteem. It's just frying your dopamine system because, like, for example, Instagram, it's just you get likes, so it just like juts out dopamine all the time, but it's not a good source of dopamine, so it's not necessarily like something you have worked for so much and then you get this reward. So it's very addicting, and it plays on intermittent reinforcement. Now, intermittent reinforcement is something I've made a video about, so after this video, it would be great if you checked it out. It's really an important concept to understand within our own brains, and it can lead to a lot of negative things, so it's really, really important to understand. So I think the thing is about pressure, a lot of the pressure we feel is pressure we put on ourselves internally. So in my own case, this is something I realized that for years I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself, but I never realized how much pressure I was putting on myself. It was so unconscious, and it's something that I have worked on a lot and continue to work on, to try to identify what pressures I'm putting on myself. Now, if you're a perfectionist, which I also have a video about that, if you are a perfectionist, then this is something you do habitually. You put inordinate amounts of pressure on yourself to perform, to be a certain way, for things to be perfect, whether that be, your relationships to be perfect, your career to look perfect, yourself to look perfect, for everything to be perfect. But obviously life is not perfect, so this is a hell of a lot of pressure. And it's pressure that's never really going to let up because there is no such thing as perfect in the first place. It's so subjective. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, in terms of pressures, my friend was telling me that she really needs help because she finds it hard to actually get things done because she feels so overwhelmed by tasks. And I pointed out to her that, a lot of the things she was doing and putting on her to-do list, similarly to myself, were just way too much. She wanted to get this done, but also get this done, but also get this done. And so her brain was pulled in all these different directions, and it was so overwhelmed by the failure she thought she was going to feel and that, she was going to experience. So it puts her off doing all of it altogether. So basically, it conjures up this like negative feeling. So pressure is a really big problem, and it's something that I think we really need to look at within ourselves and try to address, because it's really not healthy to be living in a state of constant pressure. And it also is completely pointless because let's suppose you just take on this pressure from society and internalize it, and you just go your whole life and you achieve a whole bunch and then you die and you were never happy. What the hell is the point of it? There was no point of it. So I think it's really important to get real with ourselves, myself included, to try to really take stock of what's causing these inner pressures, because it means that you are operating from a place of duty as opposed to a place of desire. So it's like, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, otherwise I'm a failure and I'm going to feel bad, versus I actually want to do this and I'm going to do it because I want to do it. And, you know, obviously sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do, but I think it's a fine balance between applying pressure to ourselves to make ourselves get things done, but also listening to our bodies, listening to the rhythms of our bodies, and actually thinking and checking in with ourselves and saying, no, my body is saying no today, and that's okay. Because obviously there's two energies, yin and yang. Now, we live in a very yang dominant society. I myself definitely need to balance my yin more because I am very type A personality. I always want to get things done. I always want to achieve things. But the truth of the matter is that there needs to be balance. Because, and when I say there needs to be balance, it's not just like I'm saying that if there is no balance, there will be an imbalance, which sounds so obvious what I'm saying, but actually it's more profound than you think. So you can just try to ignore this yin and yang stuff. You can just try to be like, okay, I'm just going to push, but there's only going to be so much you can push until your body just says no. And that could look in terms of a major illness, like, you know, you could get a really serious affliction, or you could get headaches, chronic headaches, or IBS, or something like that. Now, obviously we're getting into a bit of a different topic with this, but this is important to mention. Symptoms are exactly that. They're symptoms. They're signs of a problem. Now, people often think that that problem has to be something along the line, something, you know, like a structural defect in the genes. But obviously there's so many things that aren't structural defects in genes. For example, IBS, you know, that's a really common thing that affects a lot of people. Depression is something that, you know, they can't find it on a blood test, they can't find it on a scan. Well, maybe they could on a brain scan, they could see different areas of the brain. But the point is that it's not typical in the sense of, you know, like with cancer, they can see that there's actually a cellular defect. But the point I'm trying to make is that these things are affected by our energy system, by yin and yang, and a lot of that has to do with the pressures we're putting on ourselves. So this is just a call to action today for you watching this video. I want you right now to just check in with yourself and ask yourself, what pressures am I putting on myself today? What pressures am I putting on other people too? Now, this is really important to ask about other people as well, because, you know, we put a lot of pressures on other people to be certain ways, to say certain things, to do certain things, oftentimes for us to feel okay. Now, you might be watching this and being like, I don't do that. No, you might not do that, and that's great. But I think if we're honest, most of us at some point or another do this. And it's worth checking in with, you know, every now and again and saying, what pressures am I putting on myself or on other people or in situations to be a certain way? Because oftentimes we're building up this stress inside of our body and we're totally unconscious of it. And that can, over the long term, lead to serious medical effects, serious psychological effects. So this is just a few thoughts on that. I'm going to wrap this video up here now, but I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have enjoyed it or you've learned anything or gotten anything out of it, please like it and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to leave a comment, I'd be happy to engage with you too. Ciao, and I'll see you on the flip side.